The playoffs are among us, and here we go. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens rushed for about 300 yards, actually over 300 yards, in a dramatic fashion and end up beating the Steelers 28-14. Now, what do the Steelers hang their hats on? They hang their hats on having a good defense. That's usually, when we look at Pittsburgh, they're a defensive team. No ifs, ands, buts about it. They're a defensive team. But when you're going against a backfield like Lamar and Derrick Henry, you know what they are going to do. You gotta force Lamar to throw the ball. Now, I'm not saying Lamar is terrible at passing, but the last thing I want to do is have Derrick Henry rush for 186 yards and Lamar to get 81 yards on the ground as well. That's not going to work. Derrick Henry rushes for over 100 yards, you're screwed. He rushes for 186, almost 200 yards. Yeah, that's not going to help at all. Russell Wilson threw for 270, but George Pickens only had 5 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. I don't really know what the Steelers are doing offensively these last couple of years, and it really shows that the Steelers don't really have an offensive identity. Because I'm not going to lie, if Derrick Henry is rushing for 186 yards and Lamar's a QB, and he got 81 yards. Najee's 6 rushes for 17 yards. Where is that taking me? That ain't taking me nowhere. I give you the ball 6 times and you only get 17 yards. That's not good. That's nowhere near what the standard is in the playoff game. And the Steelers, this is their 6th consecutive year not winning a playoff game, but this is their 6th consecutive blowout loss. Now, they didn't get blown out like, the Browns did to them years ago, but this shows that Pittsburgh needs to change because they keep having these winning records, 9-8, 10-7, 10-7, 11-5 at one point. They were a dominant franchise. But now we look at them and we're like, yeah, you guys have a winning record. But what does that do if you guys can't win a playoff game? You guys can't play a wild card game because you guys are going to lose. You guys can't even make it to a divisional round game as the number 1 seed. Because remember, they were the number 1 seed back when Juju was doing that Corvette stuff. And Baker Mayfield, he's too busy. Hey, Cleveland's in the playoffs. We ain't won a playoff game in almost 20 years. I wonder what they're doing. And while Baker and the Browns were game planning, the Steelers are just like, hey, we're good. We're playing the Browns. The last team you want to see in the playoffs is your divisional rival. If you're Dallas, you don't want to see the Eagles. You don't want to see Washington. If you're Pittsburgh, you don't want to see the Ravens. You don't want to see the Browns. You don't want to see the Bengals. If you're Kansas City, I don't want to see the Broncos. Because even though they have Mahomes, it don't matter who the Chiefs have at QB. I mean, it doesn't matter who the Broncos have at QB. They always give Mahomes hell. Always. They could be one of the worst teams in the league. They play the Chiefs, done for. And I know Mahomes still has like a winning record over the Broncos, but it's the fact that they'll make it 10 times harder on you because they've played you so many times. They know your tendencies, they know exactly what you're going to do and what you're going to go for. And that's just what you got to be prepared for in the playoffs. Steelers, I'm not saying Mike Tomlin needs to be fired because he does something right, but getting old Big Ben and having him in the playoffs, getting a Russell Wilson who's 36 in the playoffs with no weapons. Because in my opinion, they haven't had a real offensive threat since they've had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Everybody else just seems like guys. Like, look at Deontay Johnson. Last time when Deontay Johnson was on the Steelers, guess what? He went, 10 games, 11 games without scoring a touchdown? Then he finally got a touchdown? Yeah, that's poverty stats. Antonio Brown would have had 6 touchdowns by week 4. And Najee Harris, I was a fan of Najee coming out of Bama. I thought he was more of a slimmer, more elusive Derrick Henry, but he's not really shown me much since he's came in the league. And part of it is because of that O-line. The Steelers don't have David DeCastro anymore. So I don't know what the Steelers are going to do from here. They have a pretty nice draft pick ahead of them. They're probably going to be more like middle of the pack type of team. Steelers, man. Steelers fans, y'all need to make some drastic changes to that team. Because George Pickens ain't going to get it done, and Russell Wilson is not going to get it done. You guys might still have your winning record. Mike Tomlin wants to keep that streak alive. But then when you get to the playoffs, what does it matter? It doesn't matter if you have a winning record for 11 awesome years, but the past 6 years you've made the playoffs with a winning record. You can't even relatively win one playoff game. It's just sad, man. Just sad.